Good afternoon. Welcome to today's CI Tools webinar. My name is Josh Osborne and I'm the product manager for the CI Tools here at Central Innovation. And this is our weekly webinar where we talk about things to do with the CI Tools, as you can probably guess by the name. As you may know, around about this time last week, ArchiCAD 29 was released. For international customers, and then the day later for Australia and New Zealand customers. So ArchiCAD 29 is available, and the CI tools were available this same day as well. We released them the same day. So if you are using ArchiCAD 29 or thinking of upgrading to ArchiCAD 29, just know that the tools are available for that and ready to go already. So you don't have to wait for those to turn up. If you haven't done the upgrade yet, but if you are planning on it, those are there. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have a look at at the CI tools in ArchiCAD 29 because there's a couple of new things that are included in this update. The main new feature, obviously, is that the tools work in ArchiCAD 29, whereas they didn't before we released them. So that is one of the main new features. Each year when a new version of ArchiCAD comes around, that is our target, is that we have the tools ready and available for you to keep continuing doing your work on day one, which happened again this year. However, we also had time to get in a couple of new features this year. So I'd like to go over those with you today. There are three main new features. One of them is a little bit invisible, and that is to do with licensing. So we won't really delve in on that in this session, but we've just done some work on the way that cloud licensing interacts with the CI tools. And so in a future version of this webinar, we'll talk a bit about how those changes might affect you or might not. But the second two features are what I want to look at today. The first one is an update to our fit out tool. As you may know, when we released ArchiCAD 28 at around this time last year, we also released a new tool called the fit out tool, which lets you select essentially entire room fit outs and place them into rooms or zones in your project. And it automatically arranges all of the pieces in there and allows you to easily manipulate those without having to do a bunch of tedious moving things around. And one of the main pieces of feedback we got from that fit out tool launch was that it looks really good, but we want to be able to create our own kinds of rooms. And so that is what we have added in ArchiCAD 29. So you can now create your own fit outs using any objects that are available inside ArchiCAD. You can just set up the type of room that you want to use, or even just type of part of a room that you want to use, create your own fit out, and then you can use that in all of your projects going forward. So it allows you really great flexibility from that point of view, and it also has a bunch of functionality to do with checking clearances and that sort of thing, so that you can make sure that your rooms, once you place fit outs in them, aren't going to do something silly like shoving a shower directly into a doorway and that sort of thing. So we'll have a quick look at how that works and how you can get started creating your own fit outs. And then the third thing is the CI Annotate tool, which you may have known up till now as the tool that lets you convert case in ArchiCAD. We've added a new feature to that, and we're also working on adding a additional feature to that in a couple of weeks' time as well. And that is that we allow you to do font substitutions now. So as well as substituting the case of text in your project, you can also swap out the font to a completely different font. So we're going to look at that quickly as well. If you have any questions as we go along, just enter those in the chat panel and I'll try to get to those at the end of the session. But if you have anything that you think of that you want answered later on, just email those to nz.support@centralinnovation.com, and either our very helpful technical support team will help you there, or they'll pass your message on to me. And the same goes for if you have any suggestions for future webinar topics, send those through to the same place and they'll make their way through to me as well. All right, with that out of the way, the only other thing to mention is that, of course, I'm using ArchiCAD 29 today because we're looking at ArchiCAD 29 new features. At this stage, all of what we're going to be looking at today is only available in ArchiCAD 29, but in the next few weeks we will be looking at which things can also be sent back to older versions, and we will decide what we can do there, and we will make information about that available on our knowledge base. All right, so jumping in, let's start with the fit out tool. So the way that the fit out tool works now is that we have two discrete types of thing in the fit out tool. As you may know, prior to ArchiCAD 29, fit out tool was available by a single tool in the toolbox, which was the fit out tool, and you could select your room. So you would go into the fit out tool, you would select the kind of room that you want, and then you would place one of those rooms. So you would say, I want to do a bathroom. You'd specify the settings of the bathroom and you would place those. Those are still there. They still work exactly the same way that they did in ArchiCAD 28. And essentially what a fit out is an entire room that you've pre-set up. However, there's a new cog to the way that this system works, and that is the introduction of a new type of thing called a set, which you'll see if you're using the CI Tools work environment. You'll see it above the fit out tool in your toolbox, in my case above and to the right, but it's the set tool. And you can see the icon is showing the same room layout, but where the fit out is showing in sort of bold the entire room, everything in the room, the set only shows one element, and that's because what a set is a set of things. So for instance, it could be a table with a series of chairs around it, or it could be a bathroom sink with a mirror and a soap dispenser and that sort of thing. So they are the subcomponents of a room. Now, the reason that we have introduced sets, because you may be thinking, why don't we just select a bunch of objects and place them in a fit out? The reason why is because when an object is placed in ArchiCAD, we don't know anything about how it relates to the rest of the building. Specifically, we don't know if it needs to be up against a wall. We don't know if it needs to allow clearance space for you to get around it, to be able to move through the room and that sort of thing. And so a set allows you to create an arrangement of objects and configure those with clearance spaces and information about how it connects to walls, and save those as smart elements that we can then place, and they will be able to rearrange themselves as fit outs. So when you're working with the fit out tool, if you're using the version 29 fit outs, so the ones that are available here still, they will still work the same way they did before. They don't have sets in them, so you can still place those and do whatever you like. However, with the sets now, this is how you'll create your own fit outs, and it's also how we're creating new fit outs from now on as well. So I'll have a look at some of the sets that we've included. We have a folder of example sets in the tool by default. So you'll see in your library, if you go into the fit out set tool, there are two folders under the fit out folder. We've got clearances and we've got example sets. We'll look at clearances in a moment, but for now, let's have a look at the example sets. And the idea here is to show you the kinds of things that you can do with fit outs so that you can see what you might be able to do. And also quite a few of these may actually be useful for you without you having to create your own new sets. So in the bathroom, we have a couple of different configurations of basins and baths available, and toilets. In the bedroom, we have a few available sets for different beds and bedroom drawers. Healthcare has a couple of different options for those things that we had in the consult room and things. The kitchen at the moment is just a table and chairs, and the laundry is a laundry set, all sort of contained in one piece like this. So we can go ahead and we can actually just place these as they are, or we can create a set, we can create a fit out of a bunch of different sets. So we can work at either level. So what I could do is I could say, let's grab the CI laundry set small, hit OK, and then go to this small bathroom here and just click inside the zone, and it will place that set for me. And this will behave like you would expect. So we have this set now that we can do, move around to wherever we need it to be. And we can also do the same things that we could do before with the fit outs, where we can say convert to components, and it will explode that set out into all its individual components. So you can see now we still have all of the objects as they were. So the same as with the fit out tool before, once you get to the point where you're happy with the layout of your room, you can explode everything out into the individual objects that were used to make the set in the first place, and then they can be scheduled individually and that sort of thing. So you're not sacrificing any of that ability. You can still do all of that. You just have a much more configurable way of creating these automated rooms, essentially, for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a fit out so that you can see how they work. So we're going to start with a couple of sets. So I'll do a bathroom. So we'll grab a basic basin set. We'll place that down. This is just a sort of staging area where we're going to set it up. We'll also grab a bath and we'll place that down. And then we'll select those two things. Whoops, my cursor is funny there. We'll select those two sets and we'll say create a fit out of those. So save sets as a fit out with those two selected. We just need to give it a name. I'll overwrite this test one that I created. So bathroom test 1. And that will save the fit out for me. So now I can go and place it in my room. So going to bedroom 2 over here, that looks like a good size. I'm going to go to my fit out tool and you'll see bathroom test 1 and you see a preview of them there. Obviously they're just sort of splattered down wherever I selected them, but that's fine. And you can see that it is made up of one CA hand basin set basic and one bath set built in with shower. So I'm going to hit OK and then click in my zone and it will automatically do its thing and place those elements in sensible spots in the project. And I can move those around the same way as I did before. They'll place as a group. And if you have suspend groups turned on, you can move those around to wherever you want and they will rearrange accordingly. So if you move the basin on top of the bath will move out of the way and vice versa, as you can see there. Now, one of the things that you might notice is that it is putting things hard up against the window here. And the reason for that is because we haven't told the fit out tool about the existence of this window. We're actually working on an update that will automate this to some extent for you, but it's nice and easy to do manually anyway. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to delete that fit out that I created. And we're going to put some clearance zones down in this room. So I'm going to go into my set tool and you'll see that in the other folder, so the one alongside example sets, we've got this clearances folder and there's a handful of these clearance sets available. So we have a clear path that allows us to draw a path through a room that we need to allow clearance for. Door circulation is for door circulation. And then we have 3 different types of window clearances. One is a window alone, one is a window with curtains, and one is a window with blinds. So I'll select window with curtains. We'll leave the settings as they are and we'll click OK. And then I'll click over on this window here. And then I will select the door circulation and I'll click over on this door here. And it's put that on the wrong side. So let's just turn that around. Make that size look like the clearance that we want. So you can see that marked out there. And then the same for the window. So we'll just set that up so that it is covering the area that I want it to. Now it knows about those 2 parts of the room. So I can go back into my fit out tool, choose bathroom test 1 and place that down. And it will place those items, should place those items not overlapping with my clearances. Not quite sure why I did that there, but this one always has to be in a corner. That's why it won't let me move it to the middle of the wall. And this one here will just stick on any wall, so I can move that to where it needs to. For some reason, it's not picking up my circulation area and my clearance area there. And I think it's because of the way that I rotated that. So my apologies for that, but you can see it avoiding the clearance area on this window here as we move it about. And this window, as you can see, allows us to modify the way that the circulation space works around it as well, so you can make it stick out further or less, depending on what you need. And as with the other items, we can also explode the sets into their components so that you can turn it into individual curtains and that sort of thing as well. So that's creating your own fit out. To create your own set, we can also do that as well. So let's say that we find a nice object that we want to use. I usually go with the blender, but let's go and have a look. As I mentioned, this will work with any object that's available as well as any lamp that's available. So you can go and find what you want. So let's go with a clothes dryer. We'll place this clothes dryer down, and then we'll put a clearance down. So we'll say that this needs to be against a wall. We have a couple of options available. So above floor is used for what it sounds like. So it's placed from the floor upward, and below ceiling is from the ceiling downward. So for overhead fans or lights or something like that, you can use those options. And then each one has 3 items available. They've got freestanding, so it can go anywhere in the room, against the wall, exactly what it sounds like, and in a corner is also exactly what it sounds like. So if we choose one of those, you'll see that it draws 2 walls, and then we can choose where those 2 walls will relate to the object. I'm going to go with against wall for this one. We can also choose how it should be rotated. In the instance where we say against wall, it will always rotate against the wall, so there's no option for that one. And then we can choose if it can be mirrored or not as well. And we can also set the space of the clearance, so if it should be a rectangular clearance or an L-shaped clearance. We've got the options available there. So we can go through and choose the options that we need there, and then hit OK and place down this clearance object. And then we can just situate it on this object. So let's move this so that we don't want it hard up against the corner there, but pretty close. And then we can modify the size of wall clearance that we need to about there, and then the size of the clearance of the actual object. So let's bring it in relatively close to the sides, but with some opening space at the front, because you probably want to be able to open the door there. So you can see the clearance showing there. And now we just select, now we just select the clearance object and the object that we want to be part of the set, and go to CA Tools, Fit Out, Save Objects as Set, and we'll call it Dryer 1. Save that. We'll say no to that option. And now if we go back to one of our rooms, we can open our set tool. You'll see dryer 01 is there. It looks like what it should look like. And if we click OK and then click in this room, it will automatically place rotated and snap to that wall, but with the clearances allowed that we asked it to. So we can go and place a bunch of these down, and it will respect essentially the rules of the room. So in this case, it will not go in front of the window because we have a clearance space there and that sort of thing. If you get to a point where it can't do what you're asking it to, you will see this happen. So it has looked in all of the spots that are available to it to see if it can fit itself in, and it's found there aren't any spots that obey the rules. So that is to say that are against a wall, which is what we told it to do using a clearance. And it also won't overlap any of the existing clearances. So the door and the window here, it can't find any place where it is allowed to go. So it will place itself into the room as specified, but it will show with this big red line work on it to let you know that this is not following the rules. It can't be fitted in properly. So you need to do something about it. You need to delete something else. You need to reshuffle things to make sure it works. So what we could do is we can go and grab this dryer, move it over a little bit so that it is further along there. And then you'll see that once I do that, the room becomes formatted in a way such that it can fit in that extra dryer. And so you can see it's automatically placed itself in a spot that's available to us because of that. So you can dynamically reshape the room by moving elements around, and it will reset the arrangement of things that don't fit into ways that they can fit. So you can see that those have done that there. in the way that you might expect. Obviously, we still have that problem with my door clearance there, but let's ignore that for now because I did that wrong. So that is the new features of the fit out tool. Obviously, that is by no means a full walkthrough of how that works. We'll do that in the coming weeks, but this gives you an idea of what you can achieve using the tool now. You can create a whole suite of these smart sets that you can just use all the time and not have to worry about doing any of those busy work things of rotating and finding space and all of that sort of thing. It will just do it all for you. And then when you are ready to, you can go into the fit out tool and turn them all back into their source objects, and they'll behave exactly like they would have if you had done all of that annoying busy work yourself. The other thing that I mentioned before was the annotate tool. So as you may know, as I mentioned just before, you may know the annotate tool is the convert case tool because that is what largely it has been able to do up until now. But we now have the option to convert fonts as well. This is something that we have heard quite a lot of people want to be able to do. So you can see I've got a couple of dimensions here and also a window marker. What we're going to do is we're going to go into the annotate tool and get it to automatically swap some of those. So I'll go to convert, and you'll see your usual case conversion option at the top, only there's a new option which is ignore. So we don't want to touch the case of any of the items here in this case. We're going to do nothing there, but we do want to replace some fonts. This is a new tick box here, so we can say tick this option here to do font substitution, and then we can tell it what we want it to do specifically. So at the top, we choose set default font. If this is turned on, what it will do is it'll turn every font in the project to one specific one. So regardless of what rules are set up down here, it will go and just swap everything to that. It will still obey the rules, obviously, if we have some in there, but you don't have to have any rules. You can just turn everything into one font. So at the moment, it's set up to turn everything in the project to Comic Sans Bold. A very brave move. And we'll ignore the rest for now. We'll just leave it as that and hit OK, and then press OK again to make those changes. And it will just go through the whole project and swap everything to Comic Sans for us. There's a couple of cases that it won't be able to do, and that is text in things like zone stamps. Can't do those at the moment. And also text in individual stair components. It won't be able to handle those at this stage either, but everything that is a dimension or a normal text tool item or a label or a marker, it will go through and get those in your whole project. So we can do that. And then we can also do individual substitutions as well. So if I select these dimensions here, and we'll say that those are American typewriter. So we have some American typewriter and some Comic Sans at the moment. We can go through to annotate. We can say convert everything in the project to copperplate, but also let's turn on the option to filter the list here so that's nice and easy. Also, we'll set up a rule to say that anything that is currently Comic Sans, it should convert to something that's easy to spot, Futura Bold. There we go. So it will convert everything to copperplate apart from Comic Sans, which will convert to Futura Bold. If I click OK here and then OK, it will go through and do that for us. So you can see that we have our nice copperplate on these items here that we turned into American typewriter. Those are switched to copperplate because they are not met by any rule there. And all of the other items that were Comic Sans before, they've all turned into Futura Bold now. So you can see that this is quite a useful way of doing things. We can also go the other way. We can say there's no default font, but we want everything that is currently, what did we have there? Let's say everything that's currently copperplate should convert to, where's Arial? Okay. Everything that's copperplate should convert to Arial, and we don't want to set any default font, so everything else should be untouched. So we'll hit OK on that, and that will do that for us. So all of this nice Futura Bold will stay exactly as it is because it doesn't meet the conditions of any rules. And the one thing that we did have a rule for, which was the copperplate, that's converted to Arial. So you can build up kind of a system of these different rules that will automatically convert all of the fonts in your project without you having to think about it. So if you ever do need to swap fonts for some reason, maybe you're working cross-platform and some of your Macs don't have the same fonts as some of your PCs or something like that, and you need to switch them. It just makes it really nice and easy to do that sort of thing using the annotate tool. So that is using the replace fonts option here. You'll also notice in the annotate menu, we have an option to manage font replacements, and that opens this directly. And you have the option to import and export font substitution rules as well. So if you set up a very complex set of this turns into this, this turns into this here, you don't have to redo that for every project. You can just export this and then re-import those rules into any other projects that you want to do the same thing for. So that is the new features in the annotate tool. And then as I alluded to earlier, we're also working on some additional new features for the annotate tool that'll be out in a few weeks' time. And that is to let you to do substitutions on a couple of other kinds of things in your projects as well. But if you do get started using ArchiCAD 29 and you get into using the fit out tool, or if you get into using the annotate tool to substitute fonts, and you have any feedback about how that worked, maybe it worked perfectly, maybe it was terrible, maybe you have ideas about what else it could do or something like that, I would love to hear about those. So if you do come across anything like that, please do send those through to me on the email address on screen now, nz.support@centralinnovation.com. I would love to hear about what you think of how it works, what it might be able to do different, and that sort of thing. I'm just going to quickly check and see if we've got any questions before I finish up today. There we go. And so in next week's session, what we'll do is we will dive into the fit out tool in more detail. So we'll look at all of the options for creating sets, what we can do with sets, some things to do with the display ordering and that sort of thing. We'll look at how to deal with clearances and how to create your own fit out layouts as well, and how you might use different parts of them to do different sorts of things in your project. So we'll look at that next week. But yeah, otherwise, that's all I had for you today. Hopefully some of you will be able to get in and have a mess around with those two new chunks of functionality. And as I say, I'd love to hear from you what you think. But that's all for me for this week. I hope to catch you at the next one. See ya.